إن الحمد لله ونحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuhu. Today we are going to go through some key factors in selecting the package and how the Nusuk interface, as we understand, will give a few guidelines, inshallah ta'ala. Hopefully it will help in the selection of the packages, inshallah ta'ala. So, but before we start, I want to just make sure that that it is very clear. The admin team of this chat group, it's basically we are all volunteers. We are not associated with any local or Saudi agency or with any other organization, government or private. Our effort is just to provide information and guidance to the best of our ability and experience on the Hajj process for this year 2023 and the use of the Nusuk platform purely for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If any benefit comes out of our guidance, it's purely due to the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our effort is just to provide guidance and for information purposes only. The participants of the chat group and viewers of this presentation are expected to use their best judgment and discretion in making decisions with selection and payment of the packages. We do not assume any liability, financial or otherwise. We always recommend to rely on official information and support from Nusuk and Ministry of Hajj and Umrah. Today, the topics we are going to cover briefly, we'll go through the terminologies and we'll go through the different aspects of what a package includes, the timelines, the departure cities, the accommodations in Mecca, Mina, and Medina, and the transportation, and a brief understanding of the cost, the range that we understand the packages would cost. And then we'll go through the understanding that we have collected so far of how the payments are being handled. And then we'll review the user document that has been provided by the Nusuk. So the terminologies, in the packages, you are going to see have board listed in many cases, which basically means breakfast and dinner is included. In some cases, you will see a full board, which is basically a lunch is also included. But mostly it is the have board is included. You will see the term service provider, which is basically Saudi agency that Ministry of Hajj and Umrah has assigned to be responsible for putting together the packages, offering them and making all arrangements, flight and the accommodation arrangements. So the service providers are responsible for it. Then you'll also see the term guides. These are basically the group leaders for a group of 47 plus Hujjaj, which is basically a bus load of passengers, basically. And then there are sometimes in our presentation, you will see the term local agency. In that case, we are referring to the agents within a country who are basically facilitating with the service provider in Saudi Arabia. There are two types of packages you will also see. One is a non-shifting package, in which case the Hujjaj would remain in the same hotel before, during, and after Hajj. But in the shifting packages, a Hujjaj might stay in a hotel close to Haram before the Hajj, but during the process of the Hajj, which is starting from the 8th of Dhul Hijjah to the 13th of Dhul Hijjah, a package might shift the Hujjaj to either an apartment or a hotel in Azizia. Again, this totally depends on how the package is listed. So here is just a brief idea of how the Hajj, the timeline for the Hajj is. These are the days of the Hajj, which kind of starts from 6th or 7th of Dhul Hijjah with the Umrah, and then it ends with Tawaful Wida around the 13th, 14th, 15th of Dhul Hijjah. But the Arkan of the Hajj itself are from 9th of Dhul Hijjah up to the 12th of Dhul Hijjah. We'll go into these details once after the packages have been selected and you have completed the booking. We will have some additional Zoom sessions to go over the process of the Hajj itself, inshallah ta'ala. So the timeline of a package, it basically depends very much on what available packages that you have and your personal preferences. For the duration of the Hajj, the journey itself could be 10 days, 14 days, or 21 days. The 10 days is generally leaving by the 21st of June and returning by the 2nd of July. And that 14 days is leaving a little bit earlier and leaving Saudi Arabia a little bit later. And the 21 days would be leaving a little bit further earlier and leaving Saudi Arabia, staying in Saudi Arabia a little bit longer. The preferences, then again, the other factor that does affect the timeline is the preference of Makkah or Medina first. And again, this one depends purely on the person's schedule. If you prefer to travel earlier, then you would go to Medina first and then perform the Hajj and return back. If your schedule would prefer that you travel a little later close to the Hajj, then you'd prefer the Makkah first and then go to Medina and return back. If your schedule is flexible, our recommendation and general recommendation is to go to Medina first so that it allows you to settle down and get acclimatized and then head out, go through the process of the Hajj, etc. The departure cities, this is very important that when you're looking at a package, you carefully review this one. Packages are only available from certain cities in each country. And each package might be limited to 1 or 2 cities. So all the cities in the country would not be available with each package. So again, review the departure city carefully. Some of the cities in USA that packages we have seen included are Los Angeles, San Francisco, Houston, Chicago, JFK, or Washington, Dulles. Again, as said earlier, you have to look at the package carefully. Every package will not include all these cities. It might include 1 or 2 cities. So you have to look at and make sure that it satisfies your requirements. And the Hujjaj are responsible for travel from your local city to the departure city that's listed in the package. And based on the information that has been available so far in the social media, in the Zoom sessions, etc., service providers are not allowing any flexibility in changing the travel arrangement, such as changing a departure city or taking a break in the middle of the journey or traveling somewhere else and then coming to Jeddah. So you have to take the package as is. So carefully review the departure cities, and if possible, be a little bit flexible to fly out of a different departure city, because some packages might be better from other cities. So you have to evaluate all these things very carefully. Accommodations, the Mecca accommodations, there are 2 types of accommodations that you might find before Hajj. You might find accommodations that are close to Kaaba, such as in Clock Tower, or the Jabal Omar area, which has the Hilton, Suites, Conrad Convention, Doubletree, Marriott, etc. Or there might be Makkah Tower or Dar Tawheed. So this is one category before the Hajj, or the package might start right out in Azizia, either in an apartment or hotel such as Holiday Inn, etc. Azizia is about 8 to 10 miles away from Kaaba. There are generally shuttle services provided, but there is always a risk that shuttle service might not be available at the time that you wish to go to Kaaba. So this is something that you have to take into consideration. Then during the Hajj, the same hotel might be made available in a package, or you might be shifted into an apartment or hotel in Azizia. Again, you have to look at this information very carefully when you're reviewing the package. After the Hajj, again, you might be in the same hotel close to Haram or in Azizia, or your package might, after the Hajj, continue to be in Azizia, or after the Hajj, in some cases, the package would, once the Hajj Arkan are completed, allow you to complete the Tawaf al-Wida and then shift you to Medina. So again, you have to review all these different aspects in a package. So this is an idea of the map around Mecca. As you can see, the clock tower, which is close to Kaaba. And then on the right side, you can see there is Azizia. And then there are some additional hotels close to Haram, but across the mountain, which is basically, this is connected with a tunnel. So this is about 10 minutes walk. This would probably about 45 minutes to an hour walk, so which is significantly away from the Haram area. This also gives you a layout of the different hotels around Kaaba. There's a clock tower, there's a Makkah hotel, and this is the Jabal Umar hotels all around here. So this basically gives you the hotels which are right around Kaaba area. Accommodations in Mina. In accommodations in Mina, there are two types of accommodations that are available for the Hujjaj going through the Nusuk platform. That is the American European camp, which is also referred as Mosim. That is basically about 3.9 kilometers from the Jamara, or you might, or about 3 miles, which is basically walk. There is no transportation available. This is each way about 3 miles walk to the Jamara. The second category of the camps are the VIP camp, which is which is also referred as Majar al-Kabsh. This generally comes with a premium package for the Nusuk users, which has better facilities, including the bathroom, etc. This camp is also on the rail lines for Marafat, Arfat, Muzdalifah, and Jamara. Again, one other aspect to keep in mind, the wait times on the rail lines is approximately 30 to 45 minutes during the Hajj period of time. The difference in pricing between economy to deluxe to premium, so far we have seen is about 2,000 to 3,000 US dollars. Again, this can vary once the packages are released. This gives you an idea of how the camps are laid out in Mina. This is where the Jamara is. The VIP camp is very close to the Jamara. And again, this is connected by rail. And this is from American camp is located out here. This is how generally you would walk towards the Jamara. And as we said before, it's about 3.9 kilometers or about approximately 3 miles. There are all the tunnels here also to allow. And we will go over at a later point in time how to safely walk through this area. Medina has a lot more flexibility when it comes to hotels, because most of the hotels have easy access to Masjid Nabawi, and it's not a major issue, and they are all situated around Masjid Nabawi. The key factor is the access to sisters area. So if you have sisters in your group, the preference is to find a hotel which is the north of Masjid Nabawi, because it has easy access to the sisters area. The hotels are such as Anwar al Madina Movenpick, Taiba Friend, Golden Tulip, Oberoi, etc., etc. So these are all north of Masjid Nabawi. South of the Masjid Nabawi, it's a little bit longer walk for sisters area. For brothers area, it's not too far. There are hotels such as Pullman Zamzam, Marriott Marquis, etc., etc. This gives you an idea of the map around Medina. This is where the green dome is, the main part of the Masjid al-Nabawi. And then this is the northern side. You can see there is the Intercontinental, Anwar al-Madina, Oberoi, etc. And to the south side of the Masjid al-Nabawi, there are additional hotels here, Marriott Marquis, Pullman, Zamzam, etc. Transportation, all packages will include transportation to and from airport and major locations within Saudi Arabia, such as from the hotel to Mina at the start of the Hajj. During the Hajj itself, there is no transportation from Mina to the hotel. That is something that each individual will have to make it available. But at the end of the Hajj, there will be transportation back to the hotel, wherever the hotel is. And then the transportation between Makkah, Medina is included, and then to the airport, etc. Again, it's generally included. So depending on the package, some of the transportation could be by train, such as the train between Mecca and Medina. This is a approximate idea of the cost. This is not the actual cost. Please bear in mind, this is not the actual cost. The actual cost will only be known when they are published on the Nusuk platform. You'll have to carefully review the cost of the package as you're making the selection. Generally, what we have seen, the packages that has accommodation, the full accommodation of Mecca in Azizia, and no hotels in Medina, they run about $10,000 to $11,000 US dollars. The hotels which has a shifting in Mecca, where you are in Kaaba before, and then Azizia during the Hajj, including Medina, are about $12,000 to $13,000. The deluxe packages, which is all the hotels near Kaaba the entire period of time, no shifting. And in American camp, they are about from 12 to 13 to $14,000. The premium packages, they could run anywhere from 14 to about $18,000, which has the hotel, the entire period in Mecca is near Kaaba, and then that includes the VIP camps. Wasim, now can you please walk us through the payment process, please?
Sure. Yeah. So as far as we know so far, what Nusuk has provided information from regards to payments, there are three major options. One is to use a credit card, which is going to be MasterCard or Visa. Second is to do bank transfers, and third is in cash. So let's talk about credit cards. The payment for the main person and all companions are to be made in a single transaction using one card. Now, this is as per Nusuk's latest update. Unless something changes when we actually start to book, that's what information has been provided to us. And then you will only have 30 minutes to make this payment before the session expires. If the session does expire, log back in and retry. Some recommendations: check if your credit card supports foreign transactions. Not all credit cards support foreign transactions. Some might only work domestically. And for the ones that do, there are foreign transaction fees that might apply. So be sure to call your credit card issuer and tell them that you're about to make a large payment so that it doesn't get blocked with fraud detection. When you select a package, note down the provider and the package name in case you need to rebook. Please note that once you have selected a payment method, it cannot be changed. If you need to change it for whatever reason, you'll have to cancel the whole booking and rebook it. So let's talk about payments with bank transfers. So as per Nusuk, again, when you make selection of bank transfer, you'll be given a unique IBAN number. And in some screenshots, we've also seen SWIFT codes. So this IBAN number will be unique to you and cannot be shared with everybody else. So make sure that when you're making a payment, only use the IBAN number provided for your booking. Multiple banks and multiple transactions can be done to make this payment. However, do note that these transactions take some time to complete. So take into account how long the turnaround time is for those transactions to go through. There are some time limits that Nusuk has published. First is 5 days. So by the end of the displayed day, that will be a 5-day limit. 50% of the payment should have been received. If it is not, then the booking will get canceled. And then 3 days after the 5 days deadline, additional 3 days are provided to pay the rest of the balance. So some recommendations: as when you try to do a wire transfer, you'll do an international wire transfer. So note down the IBAN code, or in cases if they do provide a SWIFT code, note down. Generally, a recipient name and the address is required. So far in the screenshots, they are not very clear if that will be readily available. If you don't have it when you are actually trying to make this transfer, please contact Nusuk support. And tracking is supposed to be available in the profile as you make those payments in the Nusuk platform of how much has been received and how much is pending. So next slide. The third option is to do payment using the cash counter method. So if you select cash payment, again, this is only available in some countries. If cash payment is allowed while booking, select the nearest center to you. You'll have 5 days to submit the payment, and the payment has to be submitted by the main account holder. You will need to take your passport with you and present to the cashier upon making the payment. Confirm that you have received the confirmation email before you leave the center. Some recommendations: while calculating the amount in local currency, take into account the exchange rate used by the payment center might be different than what you might be thinking. And the link to find locations is on hajj.nusuk.sa website /our centers. And then in USA, there are 4 locations which have that options. One is in Washington, DC, second is in New York, third is Houston, and fourth is San Francisco. Next slide.
Okay, so now we're going to get back and look at some of the user guide that Nusuk has provided on how to go through looking for packages, etc. And again, we are basically basing it purely based on the guide, user guide that Nusuk has provided. We possibly expect some of these things to change, but this is what we know as of now. To start the process, you log into your account, and then you would click on the packages here and then start by clicking on the search packages. So when you do that, you should be seeing a filter screen here, basically, which has service providers, packages, city, arrival, and departure date. So in this case, you can go ahead and look at the service provider. You can select, you can select one of the service providers, such as what we have seen so far: Al Raji, Al Bayt. We have seen MCDC. We have seen Al Burj. So these are all different service providers. And as of now, we do not have a whole lot of information on several of these service providers. So I would suggest that you pick any one of those service providers and then concentrate a little bit more on the city of arrival and the date that you can select. You can put a range here of arrival date and departure date so that you'll get a listing of filter it down to some smaller listing. And then based on that, you are going to look at the package listing here. You will see several packages depending on what you select here. And then you can click on the detail. The details will bring you to this screen, which gives you a high level information of the flights, the date and time, etc., and the departure city. Again, as stated before, please look at the departure city very carefully. Somebody in US, you do not want to end up selecting a package that is leaving out of London, for example. So it's very, very important that you look at this very carefully. And then also it's very important that you look at the hotels in Mecca and Medina. So carefully look at this one. And then depending on what your preference is for the camp, for example, if you do want to be in the VIP camp, make sure it says Al Mashar, okay? Otherwise, it'll basically tell you Muassim, which is the American camp. And then if you have a preference of the tour guide, it'll show up here, and you can select different tour guides that basically will allow you to look into. So once you get this one, then you will start looking at much more detail on the departure city, the date and time. This is again very, very important that you look at this date. Make sure it jives, it suits your schedule, it meets the schedule that you're looking at. It's very important that you look at this one. So one other thing that is also important to look at, if the flight is a direct flight or if it's going through multiple other airports, because sometimes this can become complicated, but most of the flights would either fly from US location directly to Jeddah, or it might have a stopover in Europe, one stop in Europe or in the Middle East. So you got to look at this very, very carefully. And of course, you want to look at the departure, basically, which is the end of the Hajj, to make sure it meets your schedule again. The other thing that you want to look at the hotels. As we said before, the hotels could be shifting or non-shifting. This is how you'll find out here, basically. You will, if it's a hotel that is basically in Makkah the entire time, you will see from the beginning of the Hajj time and after the Hajj time period would be included within this. If it's a shifting hotel, you will see that you will be shifting out at the beginning of the Hajj out of the hotel that you are in. This will tell you if the meals are available or not. So if it was half board, you will see breakfast meal included, dinner meal included. If it's full board, all three would say meals included. Then this is where the Mina camp is. If you are particular, again, as on the VIP camp, make sure the one you're looking at says Al Mashar. Otherwise, you will see the camp named Muassim, which is the American camp. The rest of this information is pretty similar in both the camps. It's just how the accommodations are. That is accommodations and the location is what the difference is. Tour guide again, in all cases, recommendation is to click this all pilgrims so that all of you are within the same tour guide. So you don't want tour guides to be your group of people to be divided between different tour guides. If you need any additional services such as handicap services, etc., I'm thinking this is where they'll make it available for you. But when the interface comes on, when they release this, that's when we'll find out how it is listed. Wasim, you want to go through this, please?
Yeah, sure. So again, this is based on the screenshots and the documentation provided by Nusuk so far. If you do select payment as a credit card information, you would be required to enter your card number, your expiry date, card holder, and CVV information. Again, it would be basically a Visa or a MasterCard, and you would only have one transaction with one card, unless Nusuk changes something later. This is the information we have so far. And if we see the next screenshot, this is a sample screenshot provided of a booking trial made with a payment of credit card information. You want to review your flight, your Hajj package, services that you have selected, visa fees, the grand total amount that you are going to get charged to your card. And then, like you said, we said, note that it's going to be a foreign transaction, and you might have foreign transaction fees that come through it. If we look at payment method of bank transfer, so this is again a sample screenshot. One thing to note is the date here by which you need to make the payment. So make note of that date. Second, look at the alert. They're saying that a unique IBAN number has been given for your booking. Make sure not to share that and only make your payment to that IBAN number. In the screenshot, it does call out, for example, Gulf International Bank. It doesn't quite give like recipient name and address information that is usually expected for international wire transfers. Again, we're expecting that when you're actually trying to book, it will have that information. If not, reach out to Nusuk support for that. And this is again a sample screenshot. If we were trying to do it through Bank of America, for example, you're trying to do a wire transfer. This is online screenshots. You might not want to do online. You might want to go in person just because it might be a larger amount. Go to the bank and try to do it. But this screenshot is intended to show you what kind of information will be expected from you. So it'll be an international transfer. You're sending it to Saudi Arabia. And the fees are again something to note. If, for example, for Bank of America, if it is a foreign currency outbound wire transfer fees, there's no fee. But if you were, for example, sending in US dollars, it would have been $45. You do want to send it in Saudi Arabia, and that is the option. So, and there is some more screen. If you go to the next one, it shows some additional information that's expected from you. And again, this is where you're required to enter the recipient's name, address, city, country, that kind of information, which we are hoping will be available when you do the actual booking. Then you would select the IBN number, which is the international bank account number that has been provided to you and is unique to your booking. You would verify your identity to manage and add the recipient. If you were to use select cash, again, make a note of the date by which you need to complete the payment. As you can see, it's highlighted here in the screenshots provided that the main applicant has to go to the center and bring his or her passport. So if you do choose to do it with this way, choose a center that works for you. You might need to travel to that center if you're having to do that, and then make the payment in person. As you can see on the right, there's booking details. It's calling out the date. It's calling out that the main applicant is supposed to come to the center to bring his or her passport. And again, factor in the currency conversion differences that might come in play. So make sure to have sufficient to handle that.
Okay, so again, we have this whole presentation was put together to help and guide the prospective Hujjaj. We are just volunteers. We are trying to do this fi sabilillah based on the information that we have available. It's purely for the sake of guidance and information. We do not own any liability to this. We highly recommend people to carefully review all the information on the Nusuk platform and the packages before you make the selection, and be very careful when you're entering any of your financial information, because that is considered a very sensitive information. So please use your discretion and your judgment when you're making selection of the packages and when you're doing any of the financial transactions. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah accepts all of us for Hajj Baitullah and make it a Hajj Mabrur. Jazakallahu khair. Please remember us in your du'as, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.